It's Spoilerin time. I'm Tom Merritt, and I am ready to spoil all the spoils of the Spoilerin world. Brian Brushwood, are you with me?
Yes, spoil all the things. Let's ruin it all.
Now, just so you know, we've been talking on the main Cordkillers episode about splitting off Spoilerin time into its own feed. And Brian, I didn't suggest this to you, but I think what we probably should do is just leave the feed as it is for the people who are currently subscribed.
Yep.
And then we'll create 2 new feeds, one for Cordkillers, one for Spoilerin time, that people can choose to subscribe to if they wish.
You know what's funny is we actually laughed at this suggestion when somebody suggested it in an email last week, but it sounds so reasonable when it comes out of your mouth.
Well, and I think you're right. Figured out how to do it without giving a very small amount of extra work, which is basically creating a category for the blog post, and then everything else will just happen other than giving you people new.
No, yeah, that makes sense. What we'll do is if you are a traditional, let's assume that the default baseline is if you're a Cordkiller patron, if you're a supporter, if you like the show, we assume that you like both halves of the complete program, and you should remain on this feed. If you're somebody who only wants one half or the other, we will have boutique feeds available for Cordkillers only and for Spoilerin time only.
My premise here is that people hate change.
Yes.
And so rather than changing the thing for everyone, we will provide a new opportunity that people can opt into should they wish to.
I think that's a fantastic way to go about it.
You hear in the background there, if you watch Cordkillers, Malango from Rambling Movie Minute is with us as well. He's going to join us for the very first bit of Spoilerin time. We are going to get to Better Call Saul. We will talk about episode 9 of Marco Polo. We'll talk about hacking the system. But we're going to start off with The Shield this week. Malango, have you watched the entire series of The Shield?
Yes, twice.
Oh,
Yes.
Better man than I, Gungadin. That's awesome. So
I watched it the first time, and then because of spoiling time, I rewatched it.
And you just
You guys were just going too slow.
Went all the way to the end. That's amazing.
Okay, so walk us through your experience, Tom, and let both me and Malango
try not to spoil the rest of the series
yeah.
for me. Okay, yes. Back in the Hole. This is episode 10 of season 4. Vic and Shane confront Captain Rawlings about the hidden videotape. So this is probably one of my favorite episodes I've seen so far. Not my favorite, but definitely up there, because I really was guessing this whole time about what they were going to do. Like, is Vic? I didn't think Vic was actually going to tell Captain Rawlings about the tape with Shane on it. And you see Lem frustrated with Shane as they're trying to find this dead body out in Griffith Park, and they can't find it. And you're like, Lem's going to turn. He's going to go. And it takes twists and turns that are believable. And at the very end, you see the strike team back together, essentially. Even Lem backing Shane, because Shane has been forced to admit, like, yeah, I did this. Now, of course, they didn't admit everything, but they didn't lie about the main parts. They were able to do the right thing and bust Antoine. And Captain Rawlings was believable because she just didn't let him off the hook because she knows better. She's smarter than that. And she's like, well, you're going to take polygraphs, and this isn't over yet. And at the very, very end, assigns the IAD guy to keep on their tail and keep investigating because she knows they can beat the polygraph. So it's just layers within layers. Really good episode. You know the money train's still simmering back there, whether it comes back or not. So you know when they're like, hey, everything's fine now. Vic tries to say that. It's like, no, everything is never fine with the strike team. And then on top of that, you have Wagon Wims trying to bust a serial killer and pulling out all the stops. Wagenbach running into finally the fact that he identified a little too close with Agent Coulson when he guested on that earlier episode as a serial killer. So that story's really compelling, and it's good to see Wagon Wims working well together again. Just a really rich, solid episode.
I'll tell you what, I continue to be utterly dumbstruck by the fact that I guess demographics play into it, but I'll say certainly numerically, statistically significant reviews. TV.com has this episode at 9.4 out of 10. IMDb has this at 5.2 out of 10. Wow. It is, and we've talked about this. Our best guess, according to what we read from, the Onion AV Club is going back and rewatching those, is that at the time, a lot of people didn't like this shift to the more cerebral chess playing aspect of the show. They wanted the more visceral stuff. Whereas I think I agree, man. I think season 4 is way underrated and is when everything doubles down and it starts to feel like you're choking to death at all times.
Yeah. It's like, when is this cup just going to overflow and everything just explodes?
Yeah, and I didn't even touch on Aceveda, who has a major story development in there where he has a run-in with his escort again, but then realizes that this is why he's doing it, kind of comes to terms with it, comes home and says, honey, it's over. You know it's not over, but it's still like a major step for him to at least feel like it's over.
Now, when you say it's over, he's not talking about his relationship with his wife. He's talking about his...
No. Yes, I'm sorry. It's over my dealing with this rape that happened to me.
Yeah.
And my working through my issues. That's over.
Well, as you know, with the Shield, that's a little tight little bow, and that's the last you'll hear about that thread.
Exactly. I don't expect that Acevedas will have nothing but marital bliss from here on out.
Anything else I want to say about it is gonna be spoilery, so I will not say anything else. Do you want to thank Malengo and move into our next show?
Yeah, Malengo, any last words about this episode or the Shield in general as I carry forward?
No, just enjoy it. It just continues to be stressful.
It's agony. Like near the end, I remember just choking, gasping stress as I mean, and exquisitely acted as there's so many different nooses and you just see them all tightening and tightening and tightening. And I remember the very last episode thinking I have utterly no idea how this is going to wrap up. And it was amazing to me.
Yeah, I will have to say the way that TV was done compared to like now, I would have hated watching this show and having to wait a whole week.
Oh, dude. Yeah, absolutely.
But thanks guys for having me on. It was a blast. Lots of fun.
So go to YouTube, search for Ramblin' Movie Minute if you want to see more of Malengo. And also, we didn't mention it on the other show, but theramblingmango.com is a webcomic you do, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm probably going to start picking it back up in the summer because right now the movies, although one of my coworkers kind of gave me crap because there were 2 really bad movies that came out this weekend that would have had really good comic strips to go with it.
Oh. Yeah, little Jupiter Ascending could have worked. Yeah.
But I'm planning to pick it back up in the summer, hopefully. So I'll let people know when that picks back up.
Right on.
Excellent, man. Thanks for being on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
You got a boss, dude. Thank you, Mango. Malengo. I'll say your name right sometime. Get out of here, sir. All right, what are we going to move on to, Tom?
We're headed to Better Call Saul territory, Brian. And as we mentioned on Cordkillers, we both watched this together over my Slingbox, except
Yes.
I wasn't watching over my Slingbox, which is probably a violation of some sort. But
I don't know. Is it a violation to have me over to your house and watch it in your
I don't
living
know.
room?
According to your interpretation of the Betamax decision, this would totally be against the law. But,
Well, it was for the personal use with the purposes of time shifting.
and you are my adopted son. So you are part of my household. But in any case, we were able to watch it, and I felt, as I mentioned before, and I want to get your reaction now because you saved it. I felt like this was a good setup. I was surprised that Jimmy McGill, who is Saul, was Saul. The previews had made me think he was going to be a good guy who was breaking bad, and he's not. He's already a bad guy. He's not as bad as Saul becomes, but he's a shyster to begin with, and we find out like what pushes him towards Saul Goodman in this episode. But I felt like it was a half an episode.
Well,
I felt like we didn't really get resolution on the things that were set up in this episode.
absolutely accurate. If I will say this, if Breaking Bad is the moral descent of our main character into a pit of selfishness and evil, then Better Call Saul at this point looks to be the journey of a person who ethically remains neutral, but goes from being an unsuccessful schlub to a powerhouse in the community, which is a different journey. You know, it's a different vector we're following along. But I do feel like they did a good job of making him appear weak in more ways than one. Ethically weak and weak in his competency. We'll see how it pays off, but Mike Ehrmantraut's cameo just sort of was nothing. It's like,
I think I would have rather not ever seen him in a trailer. This is one point where my inner Jeff Kanata is going to come out and say, I wish I hadn't seen the trailer, because if I had never seen that, and then Mike was the guy in the parking garage, I would have been excited. I would have been like, holy crap, it's Mike. That's amazing. Oh my gosh, when are we going to see him again? Instead, it was like, okay, here's the Mike scene. And that was everything that was in the trailer.
Yeah. And if it had been a surprise, then I could have said like, oh, I wonder if that's just a ships passing in the night moment.
Right.
And that we won't see him for another 2 seasons or whatever. But instead, by having, the trailer clearly make that a moment, it does sort of suck me into it.
I am really confused about Chuck, and I think I'm supposed to be, but I would have liked a few more clues, and maybe I just missed them.
Chuck is
Chuck McGill. Is he Saul's, Jimmy McGill's dad, uncle, adopted father?
It's tough because
older
you have
brother, like really old.
Well, you have a 50-year-old Bob Odenkirk playing an indeterminately aged, clearly green lawyer, young Saul, and it does make. I got the impression that this is a partner or someone that he respected and he was covering for, and he was getting deeper and deeper to.
But they're both McGill.
I forgot about that part and didn't notice that. So
yeah,
that's a good point.
Because the first thing the first thing that confused us when we were watching it is he got a check from Hamlin McGill, and we were like, why is he tearing up a check to himself from himself?
Oh,
and then,
right.
Then you go in and we realize, oh, the McGill is not him, or is it? Did he leave the firm? Oh, I guess Chuck left the firm, and I guess Chuck was McGill. And then it started to be clear that Chuck was McGill, and so I expected him to go home and go at some point, listen, Dad. Even though he called him Chuck in the boardroom, right? I'm like, well, that could happen. That could be a professional thing, but he never did. He just kept calling him Chuck.
Yeah. Why am I blanking on the name of that fantastic actor who's playing him? Who was in Best of Show and was Lenny or Squiggy or something?
I don't know. If only we had an interconnected network of computers.
Better yet, what if we had a whole bunch of people watching us live? Michael McKean.
I bet I could beat him.
Which, by the way, to me, he'll always be the con man from Short Circuit 2. He's a fantastic actor. And oh, did I get you on that one?
95 is alive.
I'm very excited to see Michael McKean in this because he's a talented, interesting, funny when he wants to be guy. Really excited.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe you know from reading about it. Is he in it? Is he in the series, or is this just like a temporary? No, he's in 10 episodes. Damn it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. See, to be honest, I wish I didn't even know because I just assumed, like, this guy's a name. He's got pull. He's a talent. I got to imagine that they're not going to waste him on just 1 or 2 episodes. But if they did, then that would have been a surprise.
Hold on. I got distracted. Gambling Man says brother. And Dark Redeemer says Gambling Man is correct. But how do we know that?
Well, they know it because they're reading spoiler sites.
Oh, actually, they know it from the AMCTV.com website that describes the character Chuck McGill as Jimmy's older brother, Chuck.
Okay. That makes sense.
It does, although he looks so much older than Jimmy McGill. Bob Odenkirk.
Yeah, I think also the problem is they had established, I don't know, maybe 15 years older.
All right. Honestly, that's a minor point. I just wish that they'd made it clear that Chuck was his brother.
Look,
I do like the way they handled his condition where you're like, oh, is it cancer? Well, what is it going to be? And it's an, I would assume, imagined sensitivity to electromagnetic waves, which means he can't have the power on in his house.
Yes. I wonder if they're going to take a hard stance on that because that's a bit of a controversial, much like The Shield touched on the since thoroughly debunked issue of autism caused by vaccines. I wonder if they're going to have a specific take about the electromagnetic sensitivity issue out there.
And honestly, I don't care as long as they don't legitimize it as an accepted medical condition. They could leave it as, I I know there are people like that out there, and that's a character that they can have.
Mark Redeemer points out in the chat that Tuco did show up at the end. That was a nice moment.
Yes, oh, right, of course. That confused the hell out of me, too.
What was the context of that again?
Well, okay, so they're going to this is where Saul starts to become Saul, right? He gets the skateboarders to help him stage an accident so they can get some money out of this lady who he thinks is not going to contract him. Instead, he's going to contract the other Hamlin McGill. So he wants to embarrass her and shake her down for money. And then it turns out that she wasn't driving the truck that day, and that the woman who's driving it is a Hispanic lady who drives out into the suburbs to Tuco's house.
Well, only good things can come of this. Man, I'm so freaked out that I forgot that it's a 2-episode event and that the second episode is tonight. I almost feel like it's unfair for us to give many more opinions without seeing the second half of what clearly is meant to be a 2-hour premiere.
I don't know why AMC did this, except they were just too tempted by the Walking Dead lead-in. But come on, folks, it's Better Call Saul. We were all going to watch it anyway, right?
Yeah. I will say this. My enthusiasm was not what I thought it was going to be. Once before seeing the episode, I was more excited than I was while I was watching the episode. Just the pacing was a bit slower than I expected. Breaking Bad.
Hold on. Everybody's saying she's Tuco's mom. Yeah, I know she's Tuco's mom. Why was she driving that woman's car is what's confusing me. Not that she's Tuco's mom. I'm wondering why Tuco's mom was driving that car when it was like clearly Jimmy had staked it out that usually Betsy drives that car.
Yes. So at any rate, I will say that I'm a little cautiouser going into the second half than I was in the first half. Breaking Bad's premiere did a great job of just punching you right in the crotch right from the very beginning, and I did not get that sense with Better Call Saul, but that's fine. It's a different story, it's a different arc, and I could be drawn in. Just fingers crossed, don't Marco Polo me and get good around episode 8 of a 10-episode season.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Better Call Saul. I mean, the problem is we already know Saul. So we already have huge expectations that they have to deal with. Marco Polo, even though he's a historical character whom we all are familiar with, I didn't have big expectations for him the way I did for Saul Goodman. So I think they have even less of an excuse.
Gambling Man, real quick, just forwarded us a link to an IGN article saying that Better Call Saul has the biggest series premiere in cable history. 4.4 million viewers, 18 to 49. Wow.
Yeah, that's getting that Walking Dead lead in.
And 4 million adults aged 25 to 54. So almost, 10.1 million watching. That's amazing.
Oh, and Jackie Hearn wants to know what we thought about the black and white intro, where it's obviously Saul after Breaking Bad.
Can I say this? I just realized that I suspect that, I don't want to say disappointment because we're not done yet, but I think that the perceived inferior quality of this comes from the fact that I just watched Fargo with Bob Odenkirk doing a very and the fact seeing him in that Nebraska setting playing a defeated small broken man working at a Starbucks or whatever, it was so close to him as the shallow sycophant of a sheriff, that it stood out to me how starkly Fargo was excellent. And I felt like all of a sudden I had a barometer, I had a benchmark, and I'd be like, better or less better than Fargo? And it's like, oh, it's way less better than Fargo. And
yeah, but I personally didn't get any kind of character out of that intro. To me, first of all, it was like, wait, is this the young Saul? Like, we don't hear anything about him. And then you see the guy looking at him, and you see him looking up, like, worried. Like, is this guy coming for me? And it turns out he was just waiting for somebody else. And you're like, oh, okay, I think this is the future Saul, the after Breaking Bad Saul. But then it's all as expected. Like, he goes home, he drinks, he's tired, he doesn't have much of a life, and he just reminisces about being Saul Goodman. And then we're into the backstory. So I didn't think that opening character really was trying to do anything except say, here's where Saul is now after Breaking Bad fans. Now let's get to the story that got him there.
Although, wouldn't it be fascinating what a twist if the second or third season of Better Call Saul, we saw more and more of that current world come into play. That's an interesting opportunity.
Oh, you mean like we start to get a little more Cinnabon action?
Yeah, and then ultimately, the whole last season only takes place in a post Breaking Bad future Which
I mean, he obviously meets Tuco really early. So he's going to be pulled into a lot of things. It might not be the Breaking Bad issue that comes and gets him in Nebraska. It could be totally something else.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. All right. Marco Polo, episode 9. The Marco Poloing of Marco Polo. Wait a minute, Marco Polo is going to get thrown in jail because that makes sense. Kublai Khan is Kublai Khan of the Mongols, and he's not going to take this even if he thinks Marco is innocent because they lost. And that's bad. And the Mongols don't lose, and he's going to lose face, so somebody has to be punished. And then at the last minute, the military advisor decides to admit that he was the cause, even though he wasn't, and take Marco's place for a reason that I was just sort of vaguely buying. I mean, I understood it, but I was like, I'm not sure I believe that person would do that, but okay. And then Marco Polo is free again to pursue the Blue Princess for the final episode of the season.
Yeah, there's a definite unintentionally hilarious opening to this episode where it just starts with Kublai Khan very distressed that his favorite plaything, Marco Polo, turns out to be at fault, and it just a smash cut to him going, ah! It felt a bit like the Vader no from Revenge of the Sith to me.
Yeah, and it was really, I feel like that courtroom, or not courtroom, but the throne room scene, it represented everything I love and hate about the series. I loved Kublai in as far as him sitting there and being like, love you, man, but I cannot change. You got to say something. Marco Polo was actually the Marco Polo that you would expect, which is like, I'm not going to change my story. I'm going to live or die based on my truth. Okay, fine. You've got Genghis, who just kind of makes stuff up for no reason. I don't know why he hates Marco Polo, but he does.
Kublai, not Genghis.
No, Genghis. I'm talking about his son.
Oh, got it. Yes.
Who just kind of randomly opposes Marco. I mean, there could be lots of reasons why he would, but I've never really been convinced of one. He's just sort of like, well, he's the guy who has to hate Marco, so he will.
Jingim, that's his name.
Jingim, sorry.
Jingim, yeah.
Genghis would have been Genghis Khan.
That's what I.
Jingim is the son, and then you have his buddy who sort of sticks up for him, but doesn't really have the standing to do much, which he should, which I would have liked to have seen, which would have added some more drama to this scene, and then everything else was kind of limp.
Yeah, it's the case against. I mean, I don't understand why everybody would assume that Marco Polo is a traitor. Why is it that nobody wants to believe he got fooled? It's like, that's odd to me. That's the most obvious thing on the planet.
Yeah, and that's where the fall down of Jingam is, right? There's lots of reasons that could be presented as the reason they, because he's a foreigner,
right?
Because he did this or he did that.
Yeah, he can't be dumb because he's foreign. Like, we don't believe he's capable of being duped because he's foreign.
No, it was pretty much just Jingam saying he's been plotting this all along because he's not from here, and Kublai going, yeah, it's true, he's not from here.
Yeah. So let's see what else. 100 Eyes exchanging his life for
100 Eyes as always was really good. And had a good presentation of like basically saying he's my fault.
God, so I'd hate to say it, Tom, but at this point, just everything feels silly and off the rails.
No, but I liked the 100 Eyes, and the reason I liked the 100 Eyes is that was sincere. That was him begrudgingly admitting that he admires Marco now, and taking pride in him as his pupil, and I think very honestly saying, I trained him, and I was there, and I failed you. And Kublai having the reaction of, I don't want to hear reason right now. I'm upset. And that's where it does get a little, no. But I liked the 100 Eyes part of that. That was much more convincing to me than the military advisor going, Marco, I think I will switch places with you because I am an old man with a limp.
Yes. All right. Well, look, we're going to see this thing through. Here's my question is, if you're going to place bets, are we in for season 2? Because didn't we hear it already got picked up for another season?
Are we in? I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to watch season 2. I'm looking to see if we had confirmation on that.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, Netflix announces Marco Polo season 2 premiere date.
So
I mean, at this point, we've already swallowed the bitter horse pill, and we actually kind of know the characters of the situation. But I don't know. I don't know.
Well, we have until what I thought this article was going to tell me when the Marco Polo. Oh no, premiere date for Daredevil. They have greenlit a premiere season 2, but they haven't.
Got it. We have a while to decide.
Commas, they're so important. So the final thing we have to spoil is hacking the system, which I kind of mentioned this already, but that restaurant episode was the one that stuck with me. Even the line cutting stuff at Pink's and all of that was great.
Well, what I liked about the line cutting stuff is that all of that was, based on various research. A lot of the line cutting stuff I was familiar with and even gave in my How to Scam Your Way Into Anything lecture at South by Southwest. So the idea of giving a reason, in fact, you'll notice that on the third attempt, because again, you want to show a progression. We showed me just being just an abject, asshole and just marching to the front of the line being entitled, and we knew going into it that this was not going to go well. We just wanted to get a good, point. We wanted to show failing of that. But then when I walk up from behind and ask, I try to use as close to the actual Harvard study language as possible, which is, can I move ahead because blank, blank, blank. And it's that magic word because that short circuits things and makes them want to say yes. What was fascinating is I got my first full on Twitter hater, like that opening of the 3 segments with the line cutting stuff, the fact that he saw me even pretend to be smug and entitled and demand to go first, he was just like, you're just an asshole, man. And he just I was like, what, teaching science is bad? I don't understand. They're like, I'm just saying that you should have gotten punched. I was like, wait, why? For what? And it was fascinating to me. This guy was not letting go. You can find it in my Twitter feed if you want to read
hilarious.
The drama.
Yeah, he's just like he was at that end of the scale. Like nothing about that is ever okay for any reason.
Well, and there are entire university studies that have had to be scrubbed because they wanted to study the psychology of line cutters, but when the physical threats start happening, they're like, and we're done. We can't do anymore. And
that's the thing about studying people, right? And maybe someday we'll get better at it, but people are not uniform. And so it's you're always going to run into outliers that mess up a study in a small sample like that.
Yeah. Let's see what else. We did the Win and Everything. I thought it was a pretty good episode. It's so funny, man. Like all of these little things in the moment, they feel like they take forever. We'll spend half a day shooting what would boil down to literally a 60-second or 45-second segment.
It's crazy.
But I think it all looks super pretty.
So do you play rock, paper, scissors with your children?
I will now. Dude, the joy on my face during the rock, paper, scissors thing is the joy that happens when you read something that works in theory. This is the game theory that is employed by people who win at rock, paper, scissors. But I didn't have a big sample size to try from. So running up and down the street, you can see, I feel like I'm Prometheus. I just stole fire. It's like, I have a magic ability to psychically beat you. And it was good. It was really fun.
Yeah, that's amazing. So Hacking the System, folks, National Geographic Channel on Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern?
Yeah, dude. Tonight. If you're listening live or watching live.
No, at 10 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah, sorry. 10 Eastern, 9 Central. This is the last of the double new episode things. There'll be a couple more episodes coming out over the next 2 weeks, but we're going to do another live viewing party so you can watch me and Jason watch the show with you.
Excellent. Check it out, diamondclub.tv. That's it for Spoilerin time. Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Peace out.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.